Hey everybody, OMG, what is up y'all? Hang on one second, I'm just getting Instagram online here. It's been so long since I've done this live, I almost forgot how to do it. Let's see, where are you? IG, and there is Instagram. Okay, so, gotta get that set up, gotta take out my charger so that we can actually hear what I'm saying. Hi everybody! Hi, happy Saturday. How is everybody? Okay, I think I've got it set up so that we're good to go. Still, some things never change. I'm still trying to get the camera set up as I'm recording. Hi everybody. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see you guys. Happy Saturday, happy mid-June. I'm so excited to see you guys. First of all, I just have to start off, with some coffee. You know what I realized over the past month and a half, right? So we're like our second month into Patreon, and I love the new part of Patreon where it's, hi everyone, good morning Clarissa, good morning June, hi everybody. Let's see. So the thing that I love about Patreon is that we're creating this community, we're building this circle in Patreon, and I love it, and it's wonderful, and being able to engage more intimately and more deeply with people is so wonderful. But the thing that I missed the most was interacting with you guys live. I did not realize how much I needed this interaction with you guys. I have to tell you, so what month are we in? June. So May was when I started Patreon again, right? So we had the May video, and then the May update video, and then the June video. 3 videos that I did, pre-recorded, and I cannot tell you how fucking boring, how fucking boring it was to be staring at my camera without you guys here, without the interaction, without the real live, real time engagement that we get to experience on these live streams. And I was getting a little bit of that in the energy brief. You know, I was getting a little bit of that here and there, but the thing that I missed the most was this. The thing that I missed the most was just jumping online with a few ideas, with a few bullet points. And I forgot to turn off my text messages. It's going to drive me crazy, especially if my group text is really active this morning. What's that meme? I've never been kidnapped and held hostage, but I have been part of a group text. Anyway, I missed you guys. And so that's why I am back doing the energy transmissions and energy updates live, because I just missed you guys so much. And there are also and we're going to talk about this. Don't worry, I'm not going to spend like the first 10 minutes of this video promoting shit. But give me a thumbs up, give me a heart emoji, give me some poop in the van down by the river if you have missed this as much as I have. Because I have to tell you, this way of engaging with you is the most vibrant, vital way for me. And the thing that I love above all others in my practice is working with groups. There is something about it that is just magical, that is inspiring, that is catalyzing, that is just, there's nothing like it for me. And so I'm super thrilled to be back sharing this way with you. And I've got some things that I'm going to talk about as we get into the video in terms of, new offerings and the evolution of Patreon. And I'm really super excited. But the reason, the reason that we are here today is to enjoy our coffee. But the reason that we're here today is talk about the June update. And I don't even know what to say. I have some points as usual, and I have some ideas as usual, but let's just start here. If you're with me, give me a thumbs up, give me a heart emoji, give me, I don't know, big heart eyes. I wish there was a poop eyes emoji, like everything I see is shit. But give me some love here if you have felt like the past couple of months, and June in particular, we're 2 weeks into June, like there's just no language to describe what's going on. And I have tried to come up with something that is succinct, to come up with something that is very clear. And I cannot wrap my head around it. There's some things that I do know. There's some things that are very clear. And we're going to talk about those today in the June update. We're going to talk about trauma loops and where we are right now with our own shadow and our own, sort of frequencies of trauma that we're all carrying in our own way. We're going to talk about letting the shadow in and really where we are. The big picture is, the big message is it's time to get close to your shadow. It's time to connect with the shadow consciously. It is time to be with yourself, to be present with yourself, because the shadow is just as much a part of you as the bright, shiny, sparkly, beautiful stuff. And in order to level up our awareness, in order to expand beyond the limitations, in order to move into the frequency that is calling us forward, we've got to bring the fullness of ourself with us. We can't cut off parts of ourselves that we don't like and say, well, I'm just going to leave here, leave this here at the door and cross over into this new experience. No, you got to bring the fullness of you with you in order to be in an embodied, integrated state, which is what all of this is about, really, right? It's about, when I ask for an image that really sums up what this whole ascension process is, or what this whole healing and sort of evolving and growing and expanding process is they show me a person, a being that is so splintered, right? It kind of looks like, it's like a feather. When you rub a feather the wrong way, let me see, I have a feather right here so I can show you, right? So we have this feather, and look how, everything's moving in the right way, everything's moving together, everything is, but then when we move this way, right? See how fractured and how splintered that is. And as we move into our fullness, as we integrate, as we embody, as we embrace the fullness of who we are, then we come back together, then we unify, then we reunite, then we put the pieces back together. That was a really crappy example, but you know what? I hope you understand the point. The point is embodiment, master level living as the truth of who and what I am, requires me to hold the infinite, eternal spirit self, the creator self, the higher self, the soul, the spirit, whatever you call that, to hold the knowledge and the understanding that this is who and what I am, and to also hold my finiteness, my humanness, my limited experience, the experience that has an expiration date, the temporary experience of Andrew, who is not infinite, who is not eternal. Andrew is a moment. Andrew is a sentence. Andrew is part of a much greater picture. So how do I hold, and Andrew is the one that holds the shadow. Andrew is the one that holds the pain. Andrew is the one that holds the cellular memory of the trauma and the stuff and the story and the belief. And it is all just as important as the infinite, powerful being of light that we all are. And in order to move forward, both aspects, both parts of our being, both sides of the coin, both selves need to be present and in the room. Spirituality is not about figuring out ways to cut off the parts of yourself that you don't like. Spirituality is not just about feeling good and love and light, high vibration, the high vibe tribe. No, that's part of it, certainly. And gather your tribe with you, connecting community, draw everyone to you. But that also includes you. Draw all of yourself to you. If you believe that a spiritual journey is only about feeling better, you're in for a rude awakening. If you believe that a spiritual path is only designed so that you can find a quick hit of high vibe energy, you're in for a rude awakening. Because you cannot leave the parts of yourself that are in pain. You cannot leave the parts of yourself that are still suffering if you want to move beyond it. Because I gotta let all of myself be here. I gotta let all of myself be present. And give me a thumbs up, give me a heart emoji, give me some love here if it doesn't really make sense right now. If things aren't really clear, if it feels like you're on the path, but the path is shrouded in fog. Because that's kind of part of the experience right now. And as we call more and more of ourselves back home, as we open the door to let the fullness of ourselves in, things slowly begin to clear. Things slowly begin to make more sense. Because here's the thing, you guys, you can't put the whole puzzle together until you got all the pieces. And these parts of ourselves that are trapped in these trauma loops, they hold a part of the puzzle. They hold a piece of the truth. And so the truth becomes more complete and the picture becomes more comprehensive, and we begin to see all of it the more that we allow the fullness of ourselves in. And I get it, right? It feels good to go up to the higher vibration. It feels good to go up there to the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 4th, higher dimension, and, bask in this beautiful cosmic love, and, feel the unicorn, the unicorn juice and the fairy sprinkles and the Jesus, whatever. It feels great to be up there, and I love it too. But spiritual practices and spirituality is not a fucking Nutella jar. It's not there just to make you feel better when you don't want to feel bad, when you're tired of feeling grumpy and you want a little hit of sugar and sweetness. It is important for us to go to the top of the mountain. And we have these experiences, right? We have these magical, earth-shattering, mind-blowing, awakening experiences where we go, wait a minute, whoa, what was that? Whoa, something just happened, right? I had my mind open to something I'd never considered before. I had an experience that was otherworldly and magical and transcendent, and now I know something about myself that I don't know, right? I have the contact with the higher being or the other being or the whatever. I have the crazy experience that woke me up. And sometimes the thing that wakes you up is not a beautiful, magical experience. For me, it was going through trauma over and over and over and over and over and over until I thought, wait a minute, there's got to be another way. Why do I always come to this place? So for me, that was my awakening. But we have the awakening experience. We have the thing that wakes us up, and then we go to the top of the mountain, right? We connect up there. We learn how to call in our guides. We learn how to connect with the angels. We learn how to bring in the Jesus juice and the unicorn sparkles. But the piece that so many of us are missing is at some point, girl, you got to come back down off the mountain and embody that. At some point, you got to get lower than the heart chakra. Yeah, it's throat, third eye, crown chakra. It feels great to be up here. It feels great to be in the non-physical. It feels great to be in the colors and the light and the frequency. But the reason that we are here is to redefine what it means to be a human. And the only way that I can redefine what it means to be a human is to go up here, get the fullness of who and what I am, and draw it down into form, to bring it down into the solar plexus, to bring it down into the sacrum, to bring it down into the root, to bring it down into the body, and to stand here and to say, I am spirit in form. I am infinity in a singular container. I am limitless and infinite and eternal, and I am here standing before you as a physical being called Andrew. And until we are able and brave enough and strong enough and willing enough and maybe even a little bit crazy enough to stand up here at the top of the mountain and bring it back down with us, that is how we get shit done, my friends. Look, I get it. I hear this all the time. I want to raise my vibration. I want to raise my vibration. How do I get back to joy? How do I get back to love? How do I get back to peace? How do I get back to ease? Well, the truth is that those things are always available. It's just like any other cycle. There are moments when there's an expansion and then there's a contraction. There's moments when I'm going to be up here and then there's moments when I'm going to be in the lower frequencies. So it's not always about finding a way to raise your vibration. This is the truth. It's about doing your work, getting clear with yourself, learning how to connect to your truth and to your essence. And when you do that, guess what? Your vibration raises naturally. You don't have to always find a hit of high vibe, love and light, because when you do your work consistently, when you show up to walk the path that you are calling yourself down, then your vibration will raise as a result, as a side effect of your work. Because the only thing that you're ever called to do in your work is to engage the parts of yourself that are ready to go. Whatever is completed, whatever is depleted, whatever never belonged to you in the first place is all that ever wants to go. So in order to get your vibe high, you just got to sit and work with what's present in your current moment. It's really, really simple when you break it down this way. But I know that things aren't simple right now. And simple is not always easy. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And one of the big things that I want to talk about today is normalizing spirit. And I talked about a little bit about this in the June energy brief. Where we are right now is a moment and an opportunity for us to normalize this thing called spirit, this thing called spirituality, to normalize it. And what I mean by that is to make it real, to finally begin to understand that these techniques, these tools, these methods, these beliefs, these practices are taking us back to who and what we really are. And this idea that it's insanity to believe that the reason that I came here in an incarnation was to work 40 to 80 hours a week to collect debt and buy things and reproduce and consume and then die. If you really believe that that is the limitation to what you came here to do and the reason that you're here, I feel really fucking sorry for you. Because there is so much more to our vibrant, rich, vital human experience than we have ever been allowed to believe, than we have ever been shown, than we have ever learned. So the more that I use my gifts, the more that I use my abilities, the more that I use my inherent skills that were built into this body called Andrew. And by the way, this is not exclusive to me. If you are watching this live stream, if you are currently alive on the planet taking a breath, you have access to the same things that I have access to. And it is important for us to begin to normalize these ways of being, of doing, of learning, of growing, of coping, of evolving. Because if one thing is really fucking clear, and raise your hand if this is you, give me a thumbs up or a heart emoji, raise your hand if the old ways just don't work anymore. The old modes and the old methods do not work anymore. And to be perfectly honest, they never really have. Because if it worked, we wouldn't be here, right? If resistance for the sake of resistance worked, we wouldn't be here. Because the piece that we always, often, most of us, myself included, seem to forget is that after I've been on the top of the mountain communing with the angels and the guides and the non-physical beings, and they're teaching me the truth and they're reminding me of who and what I really am, if they're showing me the truth, it's fucking useless if I don't climb down out of the cave off the mountain and take it to the street and come back and tell everybody, oh my God, my mind is blown. I just had this experience and this is what happened. I just learned how to do this thing and it is amazing. I just remembered how to work with my energy field and my emotional body and my physical body and all of that. It's time to normalize this stuff. And more than anything, it's time for us to normalize it for ourselves. Because if I don't believe it, I certainly can't expect you to, right? So normalizing spirit, and let me just tell you, as we're moving towards 2020, which is like a blink of an eye away, we're already halfway through June. We are more than halfway through the year. We are on the back half of 2019, y'all. And 2020 is when this stuff, this non-physical, airy-fairy, woo-woo stuff that, so many of us have no clue is, there's so many people who are still completely unaware of what's really going on. And 2020 is the year when it's a tipping point. And there are going to be more people in the awakening, awakened, aware, and consciously seeking camp than there are not going to be. And currently, we're seeing this tipping point occur. Right now, and just for the sake of argument, let's say it's 40% of us know what's really up, and the 60% of us have no fucking clue. Actually, I would say it's probably more like 95% of us have no clue and 5% of us do. And I think that's being generous. But as we continue to move towards 2020, this is going to ramp up in very, very powerful, profound, very real, visceral ways. And the sooner that you can begin to normalize and embody this way of being, the easier it's going to be. Because now I've got all of these tools and all of these skills and all of these abilities that I can share with you. And when you come to me with your hair on fire and your face melting going, oh my God, Andrew, I have no idea what the fuck just happened. My life is falling apart. I'm having this awakening, or I'm having this kundalini rising, or I'm suddenly, hearing these voices of spirit, or whatever, right? Whatever your experience is, when I can offer you and say, hey, yeah, I've been there. It's crazy, right? It's mind-blowing, right? It's intense, right? And here are some things that I have done that have worked for me. Because it's not about the guru. It's not about looking for someone out here to tell me what to do. We're moving away from that. Haven't we learned this lesson? Are we not seeing this as institutions and paradigms collapse, as political leaders and spiritual leaders and religious leaders are caught with their fucking ass hanging out left and right? We are beginning to see that nobody has any idea what they're doing in these positions of power. And it's up to us to rise up collectively and say, it's time to create a world where everyone gets a seat at the table. And in order to do that, guess what? I got to do that for myself first. Because if I have not created for myself a model of what it means to live where everyone is getting a seat at the table, right? My internal experience of giving all of my aspects a seat at the table, how in the hell am I ever going to know what that looks like or feels like or sounds like in the collective way, right? I see this all the time. People having sessions with, not so much anymore, but especially when I was doing oracle card readings, people wanted the fortune teller experience. Where's my boyfriend? Where's my husband? What about my job? Does my boss hate me? Am I going to win the lottery? And so often people would say, well, I want to be in a relationship. And I would say, okay, well, tell me what that means for you. What does love look like for you? What is love in action for you? What does that mean when you say relationship? I don't know. I just want a boyfriend. Well, girl, how in the hell are you going to ever recognize love and companionship until you have modeled for yourself what it looks like? That's like sending someone who has never seen a chocolate cake to the grocery store to buy a chocolate cake. Is this? No, that's celery. Is this it? No, that's ground beef. Is this it? No, that's a mushroom. How in the hell are you going to ever recognize the very thing that you say you're so desperate for if you have not cultivated it within yourself first? And this is where we are right now. Is we are being asked, we are being shown, it kind of feels like we're being forced, to be perfectly honest. This whole thing of free will is such an interesting idea when it comes to walking the path of spirit, because I feel this with all of my heart, that walking the path of spirit and committing to a life of service is sort of like having free will in the military. Right? Like, yeah, okay, you're technically free, but you don't technically have to do the 100 push-ups. You technically could just leave. You technically don't have to be here, right? But it's going to cause a whole lot of fucking problems for you if you don't do the push-ups and if you go AWOL, because spirit's going to find you. So this idea of free will, I get it. Sometimes it feels like we're being forced, but here's the thing. The only thing that we are ever asked to surrender, to give up, to lose, to leave, are the things that don't serve us anymore, are the things that we have moved on from, are the things that are done, that are depleted, that are completed, that never belonged to us. So if it can be taken from you, let it be. Because if it can be taken from you, it will be. So we're normalizing spirit, and we are learning how to do things in the way that is natural, that is inherent, that is really who and what we truly are. And there's this phrase that came through, and this is why I love the pathfinding events. This is a new thing that I started last month, and we did it again this month, and I'm going to continue. The pathfinding is where we get to nerd out. We get to take these high-level, abstract, spiritual, woo-woo concepts, and we open them up, and we look at them, and then we make them real, and we make them practical, and we look at this idea, and we extract information to give us a way to actively and deliberately and consciously navigate what's going on. And one of the things that we talked about in the pathfinding for June was, and this was a message that had been coming through in client sessions as well, coping mechanisms are single use only. Or at least they should be. Ideally, a coping mechanism is single use only. Think about this. We have a traumatic experience. And whether that traumatic experience is a singular event or repeated over time, each occurrence of the traumatic experience is its own experience, right? So we have the traumatic event, we have the series of traumatic events, or we have the period of traumatic events, and we develop a coping mechanism. And in the moment, the coping mechanism is created because it's the only thing that we know how to do in the moment. Right? For whatever reason, I'm not capable, I don't know how, I'm not ready, I'm not willing, it's too much, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know. So this coping mechanism is born. And in that moment, it makes sense because it is the best choice that I have access to in that moment, right? Because we're always choosing the highest level that we can perceive in any given moment. So I have the traumatic event and I create a coping mechanism, and it's successful and it works to a degree. Because if it's successful, then I'm still here. And if I'm still here, then obviously I have survived. If I didn't survive the traumatic event, then there's no point in having this conversation because I've already moved on, right? So if I'm no longer in physical, then this is a moot point. But for those of us that still have a body, hello, me, you, a traumatic experience creates a coping mechanism. And when it is successful, the mind attaches to it. And the mind goes, oh, okay, so this is because the mind is always looking for the silver bullet. The mind is always looking for the magic pill. The mind is always looking for the answer that doesn't require me to have to think about it the next time. Because the mind is looking to conserve resources. So the mind says, oh, well, this is how Andrew copes with trauma. So we're just going to overlay this coping mechanism on every single experience he ever has, because that's easy. I don't have to come up with something new. I just pull from the archive of the mind and I go, here you go, Andrew, here's your solution. Because we so often forget to discard the coping mechanism. Give me a thumbs up, give me a heart emoji if you're with me on this. Let me present this to you in another way. And by the way, this is not an indictment or a judgment of coping mechanisms. I'm not saying you shouldn't have them. What I'm saying is this. Have you ever broken a limb, an arm, an ankle, a foot, a wrist, a leg? Raise your hand, give me a thumbs up if you have done this, right? If you've had a physical injury that requires a cane or a crutch or a wheelchair or a cast or a sling or something. In that moment, in the trauma, ow, my arm is broken, trauma. So I have a cast and I have a sling, or ow, my foot is broken, trauma. So I get a cane and a cast and a wheelchair or crutches or whatever. And as I go through my experience of healing, as I go through my experience of returning back to the place when things weren't broken, as I go through the experience of healing the wound, the broken thing, at some point, I must discard the crutch or the sling or the cast. Because guess what? If I don't, what happens? My foot never heals fully. My arm never heals fully. My wrist never heals fully because now I'm using the same coping mechanism. If I broke my fucking leg when I was 10 years old, why the hell am I still using crutches at 25? Anybody have an answer for that? So coping mechanisms are single use only, or they should be. Think of it this way. We talk about our experience, right? I talk about the experience of being a human as, and Matt Kahn uses this analogy a lot as well, is right. You're an actor playing a role. I am here to play the role of Andrew for the lifetime. And in the role of Andrew, there is a script, there are stage directions, there are character points, there are plot points, right? There is an idea, a container, a rough sketch of who and what Andrew is. So implied in the stage directions and the character description is Andrew is this, Andrew is that, and there's a period of time where he breaks his foot and so he walks with a crutch for all of Act 2. Implicit in the use of a crutch coping mechanism is the idea that if I'm using the coping mechanism, then that implies that the wound, the trauma, is still active. So if I'm not being traumatized anymore, then why do I still use the crutch? This is what we are being called to surrender, my friends, and it sounds quite simple. But trust me when I tell you that letting go of these basic fundamental things that the mind has been using for decades and the story that is built around the use of this coping mechanism, what that implies, right? Because if I see someone with a crutch or a wheelchair or, a sling or something, I assume that, oh, they are differently abled. Something happened. They were broken when something is broken within them, or they were born without the ability to use the limb or the leg or whatever. Not to say it's better or worse. It's just that until I surrender the coping mechanism, then I am still keeping this trauma and this wound active. And really what this is about is the beliefs that we build around these coping mechanisms, the ideas that come up as a result of using these coping mechanisms. And if I am not in the trauma anymore, then it's time to let the coping mechanism go. And this is where we are in these trauma loops. Right now, it feels like we are stuck in these trauma loops. It feels like we are using them where it's like, once again, here I am again, the same thing. Wait, how did I get here? It's over and over and over. Raise your hand, give me a heart emoji if you are having this experience. And these trauma loops feel terrifying because it feels like we're stuck. But really, what I believe this is the shadow is knocking at the door. The shadow self is knocking at the door. And in our attempt to feel better, in our desire, our burning desperation to feel whole, to feel healed, to feel complete, to feel balanced, just to feel better, I understand how shutting that out, how closing the door, how numbing, how avoiding, how coping, how denying, how nope, I can't hear you. I understand how that seems to be far better than letting that wound in the door, than letting that trauma in the door, than opening the door to the shadow self feels terrifying. Because the mind has been using so many resources and so much energy to keep it away. It's like my fingers are bloody from squeezing so hard to deny this pain. When all we have to do is relax, soften that resistance, and open the door to the shadow. Because here's the other thing, you guys. It's just you. The shadow is not some demonic evil force that is sent from hell to possess you and take you over. It's just you. And in the moment of trauma, it makes sense. We splinter ourselves. We say, man, I can't deal with this. I am not prepared. I'm not ready. I'm not able. I'm not willing, whatever the reason is. And so we sort of split ourselves off and say, okay, this is the part of me that is going to absorb all this trauma, and I'm just going to leave it here in 1987. And then I'm going to move on with my life. And every so often, this 1987 version of myself will raise its head and say, hey, what about me? And so I'll take a little bit more energy and I'll try to keep it quiet. A little bit more energy and I'll try to deny it. A little bit more energy and I'll try to numb it, to soften it, to avoid, to pretend it doesn't exist. And guess what? Every time I do that, I am cutting off more of myself to deny myself. So ultimately, when I don't allow myself to feel what I need to feel to heal, guess what? All I'm doing is traumatizing myself. I am victimizing myself because now I am doing to myself the very thing that was done to me, which is try to diminish myself, try to deny myself, tell myself that no, it doesn't matter. Don't be sad. Don't be scared. Don't be this. It doesn't matter. Push it away. Avoid, deny, bully, abuse, deny, traumatize, victimize. Because I just don't want to deal with it, and I get it. It is not fucking easy, but it is necessary. And Byron Katie's work has been coming into my awareness a lot lately. And there was a quote that I posted of hers the other day, and I wish I had the exact quote. But basically, maybe I have it here. No, I'll just paraphrase. The quote is, who is worse, the person that hurt you once or you for reliving it over and over and over again in your head. That trauma loop, that replaying of it over and over and over and over again in the head is just the unconscious, the subconscious, and the body trying to complete it. Trying to complete that pattern, trying to unravel that knot, trying to let it go. But because we keep shutting it down and we keep denying it and we say, no, I can't, no, I can't, no, I won't, no, I won't. And we just keep shutting it out. It's time to open the door to your shadow. It's all or nothing. And here's the thing, once you open the door to the shadow and you begin to let the shadow in, the shadow shows you what needs healing. The shadow tells you what is ready to go. Because when you let it in the door, it doesn't mean that all of it's going to stay. What goes is the story. What goes is the pain. What goes is the imbalanced approach and the old coping mechanism that doesn't work anymore. What goes is the denial. What goes is the numbing. So when you let yourself in the door, you are guaranteed that what isn't you will go. It just happens. That's how it works. It's like raising your vibration. When you do your work, your vibration raises naturally. But standing up here and love and light, I can't love and light my stuff away, you guys. I have to feel it. And when I feel it, the bottom drops out of my pain and my wound, and now suddenly I have cleared that, and boop, I level up. It's like when you're throwing casting everything aside overboard so that you can float, right? And when you're in a hot air balloon, how do you raise the hot air balloon? You just get rid of the sandbags. When you get rid of the stuff that weighs you down, when you get rid of the stuff that keeps you trapped in the past, you integrate. Things begin to raise. So it's important for us to find a way to create a safe space for ourselves. And if that means seeking out someone who is versed in dealing with trauma, who can help guide you through it, if it's a traditional therapist, awesome. If it's a, energy worker or shaman or whatever, awesome. You find what works for you. And generally, once we begin this process of saying, okay, I'm ready to heal, that's all it takes, is being willing, is turning towards the door and saying, okay, shadow, I'm ready, let's go. Generally, once you begin the process, then the facilitators, the healers, the helpers come to you. But when you just begin to open the door and you say, okay, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this, and I'm terrified to do it. I don't know where this is going to take me. And I'm really, really nervous. I haven't felt or engaged or looked at these feelings for decades, and I'm terrified. But I'm here. I'm here. I humble myself to this process, Spirit. I ask for your help and support because I need it. Because if I knew how to deal with this, I would have done it by now. But I promise you, when we allow the stuff to enter the room, it immediately begins to draw to us the resources, the connections, the synchronicities that we need to heal the stuff, to release the stuff. So we are never on our own. We are never without support. But when the thing that wants to come in to be healed and transformed, when I don't even let it in the door, what I do is I just root myself in the trauma loop. Because I continue to do to myself what was done to me. Because I am still in this belief that I can't handle it, it's not healthy, it's not, so we continue to recreate these scenarios for ourselves until such time that we really just kind of get sick and tired of it and say, okay, I can't do this anymore, there's got to be another way. And it really can be as simple as opening the door to the shadows. So this is what I want to give you, is how do I do that? Because, I get it. Raise your hand, give me a thumbs up if you are feeling like, okay, Andrew, I hear you, but how the fuck do I even begin this journey? I'm terrified. How do I even begin to approach letting this into my life? Before we continue, really, really quick, this Friday, the 21st, for those of you who are here in Los Angeles at the 22 Teachings School downtown in the Arts District, I'm going to be doing a live portal activation for the solstice, which I'm super excited about. So you can go to my website or go to my Instagram and you'll see the button on my Instagram. I'll put the link also in the description. I would love to see you there if you want to come and be a part of this live experience. Talk about activating and leveling up, man. This is going to be massive. Also, I have now session packages available. So I have bundles of sessions in 3 and 5 sessions that are available at a really, really discounted rate. So you get multiple sessions for a much cheaper price than you would by buying them individually. They're also transferable. So if you and 3 friends want to pool your money for 3 sessions, you can each use one. So go to andrewmartin.energy and check out what I have available. Also, I've modified the coaching program. So Mastery Mentorship is now just called coaching. It's the same insight, the same tools, the same approach, but it's just a little bit simplified and a little bit pared down. So you can read all about that on the coaching tab on my website. And this is something that I am super excited about. I have recently added another tier to Patreon. So now there is a $3 a month tier on Patreon. And when you sign up for the $3 a month tier on Patreon, you get access to all the Patreon only content. You get access to the monthly live stream that I'm going to start doing. And you get access to the secret Facebook group. I just started a secret Facebook group a couple of days ago. And when you join Patreon at any level, you immediately get access to that. And the Facebook group is going to be so vital and so vibrant. I'm super excited because now I have the capability to do private live streams. And now there's a place where you guys can come together and continue the discussion, continue to share, continue to support one another on this journey. So if you go to patreon.com/AndrewMartinEnergy, you'll see I have 2 tiers available. I'm thinking about maybe adding a 3rd one. I'm not sure at this point, but I have those 2 tiers available. So if all you want is access to the live stream and to the secret Facebook group, done. You got that on Patreon. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Moving on. Oh, that's a lot of coffee. Maybe it's time for water. Better. So here we are, right? Like, how do I get out of this trauma loop, Andrew? It sounds really great when you tell me to, let my shadow in the room, but how the fuck do I do that? So give me a thumbs up, give me a heart emoji if that's where your head is right now. If you're watching this saying, okay, Andrew, this all sounds good, but ... The shadow is the part of us. This is the way I look at the shadow. The shadow is the part of us that holds all of the things that aren't true. So the shadow holds the belief that I am powerless. The shadow holds the belief that I am a victim. The shadow holds the belief that I will never find love, that I'm not worthy, that it'll never happen, that I'm just fat, stupid, and ugly, or whatever. If it's not true, but it's still something that is woven into my field, into my beliefs, because my beliefs are part of my field, and as I, unload these old erroneous beliefs, then my field becomes clearer. It's like wiping the mud off the mirror. So the shadow holds all the parts of ourselves that aren't true. The shadow holds the experience. It doesn't hold the actual experience in that we're going to have to relive it again, but the emotions that were present that I stuffed or didn't want to believe, or the beliefs that were created out of a lifetime of using the same coping mechanism. Because here's the deal with the coping mechanism. If all I have is a hammer, then everything becomes a nail. And so when I'm only using the same coping mechanism, then what I'm not is present. What I am not doing is allowing myself to be fully present and go, wait a minute, let me really look at this. Let me really feel this. Am I really powerless here? Am I really in danger here? Is anything really a threat? So how do I open the door to the shadow self? It's really, really quite simple. And this is the technique that I have been using lately. And I'm also going to share with you a little bit about my own shadow loop. So perhaps this can illuminate. But essentially, you sit down, and at first, it doesn't have to be anything active. You don't have to journal. You don't have to chat. You don't have to engage. You don't have to do rituals or affirmations. At first, all you're doing is opening the door. So I open the door. I sit down. I go into meditation, and I say this. I now call in my creator self and the fullness of all that I am to be present with me now. And then I wait. And then I feel, there it goes. I feel the energy start to shift. I mean, I kind of already called in my creator self before I did this video, so I don't really feel it as much as I normally would, but you feel me, right? So my creator self is already here. by the way, the creator self is the one that's talking. When I show up in this way, it's just me opening my mouth and the shit falls out. So I call in my creator self. And when I feel the energy shift, for me, when I call in the creator self, when I'm really, really consciously present, the room feels brighter. It feels clearer. Everything feels super sharp focus. Everything feels bigger. I feel taller. I feel more open. So I call in my creator self. And then once I feel that shift in the room, then I say this: I now open the door and invite my shadow self to be with me. Whew, and I just felt that. Man, it was like, it always, for me, it always comes in on the left, because up until recently, the shadow has been kind of just rooted in the past. And when I'm doing readings, I always perceive, when I look at the field, to me, the left is always the part of the body that is connected to the past. So for me, when I feel the shadow come in, I always feel it coming in from the past. But an interesting thing happens, that as I have been doing more and more of this work, and as I have been consciously inviting the shadow to be in the room with me, the more comfortable I get with the shadow being present. And one of the things that I have realized over this couple of weeks that I've been actively working with the shadow is how powerful it is. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of rage. There is a lot of super intense energy there. But it's nothing to be afraid of. Anger, when responsibly and mindfully felt, when I allow myself to mindfully and consciously be present with my anger and my rage, I can see how that can be a really, really powerful catalyst for change and for action. Right? Not acting out of anger, but letting the anger in the room and feeling it and going, woo, that is a big well of power. And I don't have to choose it in anger. I can be present with it and let it come into me, but choose to act mindfully and responsibly, right? So there's a lot that can be discovered through this shadow work, but the first thing and the only thing you really have to do in the beginning is just let it in. Just let it in. And the reason that at first you just feel it, right? You just let it be in the room so you can get used to feeling it. Oh, okay, so this is what my shadow feels like. So now I know, because a lot of times I hear this all the time that people say, Andrew, when I open myself up, I feel this really scary energy and I shut down because I don't want some negative being. If you have done your work to call in the creator self and really create a space for yourself that is healthy and protective, then nothing's going to get through that. And at first, the shadow can feel really, really scary and really overwhelmingly big, because it can be. And when I haven't gotten used to looking at it and sitting with it, the mind will almost always see it as a threat. But over time, with enough practice, with enough willingness, I just learn how to let my shadow be here. And so the first couple of days, it wasn't about anything other than just letting it be in the room. And then over time, you add the other layer, right? So you do the same thing. You get into your place. You call in the creator self and the fullness of all that you are to be with you. And then you invite the shadow in the room. And the next step is engaging it. The next step is turning to the shadow and saying, hey, you're kind of scary. You kind of overwhelm me. You're a little bit intimidating. But I am willing to be curious about what it is that you know that I don't. What is it that you have access to? Because here's the thing, you can't deny a part of yourself and be complete. There is a part of you that holds a tremendous amount of your power. And if you aren't letting it in the room, and if you aren't mindfully doing your work to accept it and integrate it and bring it into you, then you're running with half a tank. You're just never going to reach the level that you want to reach unless you let all of yourself be present. And so as you invite the shadow in, and as you begin to integrate it, as you begin to call it into you, you see, oh, actually, there can be a very healthy emanation of the shadow. My shadow brings a great amount of balance to the experience. And actually, if I'm honest, I see how my shadow actually makes my energy field so much bigger, so much brighter, so much more powerful. Because now, think of it this way, like the contrast settings on your phone. If you blow out the highlights and blow out the contrast and diminish the shadow, you're going to have a photo that is going to be super bright with no detail, with no clarity, with no, contrast for the dark and the light. You're just going to see something really super blown out. With maybe two little black eyes. It's going to look like two raisins in bread dough. But when you bring the balance back, when you let the shadow be present, when you invite the shadow in, you see, wow, now I see detail. Now I see the fullness. Now it starts to come into focus. And here's the other thing. Implicit in the act of inviting you in and letting you in is the truth that I am powerful. The shadow is seeking an audience with you. You have something that the shadow requires, which is your love, which is your compassion, which is your understanding and your willingness to say to yourself, there is nothing that you could ever say or do that will place you outside of my love for you. So yes, I open the door to you. Yes, I let you in. Because I'm an eternal, infinite being and I have nothing to fear. And guess what? Even the shadow is defined by the light. Without the light, there can be no shadow. And the deeper, the darker, the blacker the shadow, the brighter and the more powerful the light is. So the brighter and more powerful the light is that I carry, the more intense and the deeper the shadow will be. But when I allow myself to grow, to expand, to subsume and accept and include all of me, I have nothing to be afraid of because you're simply a part of me. That's like saying because I smashed my thumb with a hammer once that I'm never going to use my thumb again because that was too painful and I don't want to ever risk it. Ow, I hurt my thumb. Therefore, I'm never going to use my thumb again because I don't want to risk that kind of pain. Girl, really? Is that a life? Right? How do I even do that? Like, how would I pretend not to use my thumb? Like, I can't even hold my, you know what I'm saying? So it's ridiculous for us to continue to think that the same old coping mechanism, the same old pattern, the same routine of deny the things I don't want to see. No, love and light, unicorns and fairies. Look at me, I'm in angel land. Okay, great. But if you're not bringing the fullness of you with you, you're simply a fucking tourist. And we did not come here to be tourists. We came here to redefine what it means to be a human. And I need all of myself to be present so that I can unlock it all and see it all and experience it all. So that's how you begin to call your shadow into the room. So I want to share with you sort of my own process of discovery. A couple of weeks ago, I was going through some financial problems again. I found myself at the beginning of June. Once again, I was like, I didn't have enough money to pay my rent. The rent check cleared, but then I was like almost $500 overdrawn. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I just have invisible money. Right now I have invisible money. And around the same time, and so at that moment I was like, okay, what is this? What is this second chakra thing? Because to me, there's a reason that I have this chronic experience, and I want to get to the bottom of why I have this chronic experience, because I am done with this inconsistency in my financial flow. I am exhausted by it, and I don't fucking want it anymore. But I also am very aware that the mark of healing is neutrality. So I made a very concerted, conscious effort not to let myself get carried away with the fear and the panic and the worry of what it meant for me financially to be in the state that I was. So I just looked at it and I was like, okay, this is where I am. This is the reality. Here's the tea of my life today. What is it that I can know here? What is it that this can show me? I'm going to allow myself to be fully present in this excruciatingly uncomfortable place. Because who the fuck likes being broke? Nobody that I know of. But if I was honest with myself, I had to say, well, there's part of me that is really, really invested in me not having money. There's part of me that feels like this is a good thing or necessary. Otherwise, I wouldn't continue to recreate this experience. So I was savvy enough to be present with that truth. So I just said, okay, Shadow, I don't know what this is. I don't know why I keep having this negative experience, but I'm going to be present with it. I'm going to allow it so that I can finally understand it. Then a couple of days later, I read this article that was talking about this idea of fawning. And it was this article talking about, when we're in trauma and we're trying to, we're trauma bonding in relationships, or it's the empath and the narcissist in a relationship together, right? And one is the giver and one is the taker. And it was this whole idea about how there's fight or flight, but this person was also saying there's also freeze and fawn. So in terms of a very lizard brain, primal brain reaction, it's fight or flight. But freeze or fawn is also another thing that we do. And so this article was talking about fawning, how we think that, oh, well, if I love you more, if I give you more, if I deny more of myself, if I get rid of more of my boundaries, if I cut off more of the things that you don't like, it's just how do I minimize myself and make you feel amazing? And there was this conversation in this article about how this part of us that is denied love, a part of us that is denied acceptance or inclusion, we create this reality where we think, well, if love isn't earned, if there isn't struggle, then it's not worth it. Because we engage with these people who give us just enough love, give us just enough support until we almost start to feel stable, and then it's pulled away from us again. And then we go through the whole process of struggling and building ourselves back together and bringing ourselves back up. So what I realized, and this was not new information, I was aware that I had begun to romanticize my struggle. I was aware that part of me had turned the story of struggle into, oh, but look how powerful you are, Andrew. Look what you can do just pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. But what I realized is that part of me is really, really invested in me being powerless. Because when I'm powerless, I don't have to be responsible. When I'm powerless, I don't have to be accountable. When I'm powerless, I can say, well, that's just what it was, but here I am again, up by the bootstraps. Let me just pull myself back together. Also, there was a piece for me that being successful means being seen, and being seen is dangerous. Because of how I grew up, I learned really at a really early age how to disappear, how to make myself invisible, how to try to avoid being judged or bullied or teased. And part of what was in my mind was that, oh, it's not safe for me to be powerful. It's only safe if someone else grants me power, right? So I had this whole idea in my mind that if money was easy, if it just came to me, then it wasn't valuable. That if love and acceptance and praise just came to me, that it wasn't true, that I had to struggle for it, that I had to suffer for it. And so I realized that, holy shit, I sabotage myself. I get moving and things start to build and the momentum gets bigger, and I start to go, oh my God, here we go. It's getting bigger and more powerful and bigger and more powerful. And look, it's all rising up and I feel myself expanding. And then, oh my God, holy shit, no, I can't have this. I don't deserve this. Wait, this is too much. I didn't have to struggle. I didn't have to suffer. So I immediately pull the rug out from underneath myself. So what? Bam, back in struggle. Back with the old fucking coping mechanism. Back with the ancient way of dealing with my life that doesn't work anymore. And if I'm honest, it only worked once, which was the first time. And then it was just a matter of me recreating the same scenario over and over and over. Because what? If all I have is a hammer, then everything is a nail. So this is what I think I'm running out of time. Oh, yeah. Okay. So Instagram's getting ready to log off. So I can't go over an hour on Instagram. So IG, thanks for joining me today. Facebook, I'm going to be with you for just a couple more minutes. So if you want to watch the rest of this, head on over to Facebook, Andrew Martin Energy. But we're wrapping up. We're almost done. So what I realized is that I was recreating these scenarios where I was powerless because that was the only way I felt comfortable gaining power or gaining traction or finding stability. And then I would almost get to the place where I was stable and had, a good balance going. And then this part of me would wake up and go, wait a minute, no, we don't deserve that. That's not safe. You can't be seen. Don't be successful, because anything that draws attention to you is danger, 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 danger. So I just started by opening the door to my shadow and saying, what do you know that I've forgotten? What do you have access to that I've cut myself off from? Because I cannot go through this cycle one more time. I'm going to lose my fucking shit. So it's a process. We are learning. We are growing. But it all starts with loving ourselves where we are and letting all of ourself be present. You gotta let all of you in the room. And I know that it's scary. And I know that it feels terrifying, but it's just you. That monster isn't there anymore. And so remember that Byron Katie quote, what's worse, the person that traumatized me once or me for replaying it in my head over and over and over? So turn to yourself. Say, honey, I'm scared shitless, but I know there's a message for me. And I gotta let you in the door. And I may not have the answers, and I may not have a solution, and I don't know how to deal with you, but I know that you're part of me. And I also know that you hold wisdom, and I also know that you hold power, and I also know that just like the rest of me, you have access to a time and place that transcends everything. So all I can do today is open the door and let you know that you are loved. And the rest we're just going to have to figure out together. So that's it, my friends. I am so happy to be back doing these live. So this is how it's going to go down. We're going to go back to the live stream videos. So at the beginning of the month and the middle of the month. And Patreon is now the place where you go to access the Andrew Martin Energy Group. It's the place that you go to get first dibs on all of the ticket sales for the events. It's the place that you go to get access to the free events for patrons only. It's the place you go to get discounted tickets on events for patrons only. It's the place that you go to get the MP3s that I give out every month. There's so much goodness for you in Patreon, and there's the $3 a month level now, which gives you access to the free live stream, access to the Facebook group, and if that's all you need, then that's why that's there. I love you so much. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, if you're in Los Angeles, next Friday for the solstice, I'm going to be at 22 Teachings down in the Arts District doing the live portal activation, solstice portal activation, which I can already feel is going to be big and juicy and powerful. And that's it. Go to my website, book a session. I can help. Reminder that I have the session packages of 3 and 5 sessions at a greatly reduced rate. The coaching program is wide open. I've got spots. So if you're interested in that, then let's do that together. And if not, then I'll see you here in just a couple of weeks. Mwah! Have a fabulous weekend. I love you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.